All right. What did everyone think of School Interface 4?
That was a fun one.
It was a fun one?
Like, yeah, you already had the main framework set up, so it was more free to then take that and do what you want in order to make an interface that works.
Nice. Yep. Yeah, I like School Interface 4 just because it leaves some open. You're able to do things like there wasn't explicit instructions on how to implement it specifically. Kind of left some open-ended code that you can write, which is nice. All right. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm in November Platoon School Interface 4. I'm going to fork this over to my personal GitHub. Come down, fork it over to Tom Preet. It's loading, forking November Platoon School Interface 4 to Tom Preet School Interface 4. So there we go. I'm in my personal GitHub. Next I want to do is clone it down by clicking the little green code and copying it to my clipboard. And I'm going to open up a new VS Code terminal or window. Whoop. I'm going to navigate to the directory that I want to clone this down. CP challenges, November. So November challenges, git clone, fork that over, and now list everything out. I'm going to zoom in. Is that too zoomed in, or is this good right here? Is this good? Okay.
That's good.
Cool. So I list everything out. I can see School Interface 4. You can either build upon what you've already written, or you can use the code that's already here for you. I'm just going to use the code that's already here for me, just to keep things simple and the same across everything. So I CD'd into School Interface 4. And now I'm going to code -R. I'm going to open this up into a new VS Code window. So code space -R space period. So I've got School Interface 4 up here. I've got my classes. I've got my data, and I've got my runner file. So before I actually start writing any code, I'm going to actually create a separate branch to write my code on, because again, it's not, when you're actually working on the job, you're never going to be writing directly to the master branch. So you're going to create a branch to do specific related to what you're actually be implementing, whether it's a feature or just pretty much anything. You're never going to be writing to the master branch. I forgot how to create a new branch. Can anybody help me? What's the command to create a new branch off of master?
Git checkout.
Git checkout.
-B.
-B. Oh. Sounds like
the name of the new branch.
All right. And then name of the new branch. So this new branch, I can call it something related to what I'm implementing. So what am I implementing in this? Refactoring school interface. So creating a school interface class, doing some authentication. So I can write authentication, or I can just say like Tom's solution. Actually, I'm going to do authentication. So I'm going to create a branch called authentication, or just simple auth, or author, yeah, auth. So create a new branch auth. So I'm no longer working on the master branch. Good. Now I can actually start coding. All right. Before I start coding, I'm just going to make sure this actually runs. So I'm going to list everything out. I've got my README, my classes, my data, my runner. I'm going to run the runner file just to make sure everything still works. Okay, I've got this listed out here for some reason. I've got my list of students. So if I press 1, it lists all the students. I can view an individual student by 1, 3, 3, 4, 5. So it lists the student. I can remove a student. So remove a student 1, 3, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I removed a student, but it didn't say anything. Maybe I should list all the students to make sure it still worked. Yeah, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is no longer there. And I can look at just all this information. I've got, what is this, test CSV there. Don't know why that's there, but students, cool. All right, I'm actually gonna, where is that being printed at? So it looks like it's printing everybody here, which I don't want. All right, that's 5 quit, cool. So everything's still working, great. So release 0, refactoring, / the school interface class. So we're going to refactor our ugly runner file by pulling the user interface logic into a new class. Our new class will be a user interface that will be reused for any instance of a school, the school interface class. So we're going to create a new file in our classes directory called interface.py. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I can delete the stuff and go into my classes and click the little add file, or I can do it inside the terminal, but I'm just going to do it in here, interface.py. Cool. So it looks like it gives us some starter code. So I'm going to just paste that in there. So the school interface class initialize, is that right? I'm just going to do dunder init. I don't know. Dunder init takes in self. So school interface takes in the school name, and then it creates a new instance of that school. So I'm also going to have to import from classes.school file, import the school class. So in my new interface.py file, I'm importing the school class by running classes.school. And the reason why it's classes, not school, and not directly. So I know a lot of people had some issues with importing. So I'm just going to run this like this. So school1 equals school interface. Some school. And if I come down here in the terminal and cd into classes and run my interface.py file, Python interface.py, I get an issue. I get an import issue, no module not found, classes. So right now, if I'm inside the classes directory, you're trying to run Python file, it says from classes, it's looking for another directory within classes called classes. So if I want this to actually work, I have to delete the classes. And so it's just from school, import school. Uh-oh. Oh, so now it's running into all this issue because now it's going to the next one. So I go into school and it looks in here, school has classes. So I'm going to have to go and delete all the classes from every single class, which is not good. So you don't actually want to be running it from the interface. You'll be wanting to run it from the file or from the runner file. So I'm actually going to go up a directory. And I'm going to, when I run this, I want to run it from the runner file. But let's clear all that out and just move on to get this running. So now we can start pulling pieces of our UI out of the runner file. We'll start with one large method and then break it up bit by bit. Let's take the UI code and put it into a method called run. So we can, in here, we can remove all of this. So let's remove all of this and move it into our interface class or school interface class and create a method called run that takes in self and paste that in there. And make sure indentation's good. That might work. Hopefully that works. Okay. So we've got some code right here. So now in the runner.py file, we can create a new instance of our interface, pass it a school name, and then call run on it. So just like this. So I'm going to come over to my runner. I'm going to split that up initially. So I've got my runner on my left, or I'm sorry, my runner on my right, and my interface class on my left. Let me close that out, expand that a little bit. So I can say from, let's open that up. So I'm in the runner. So from classes, so from the classes directory, import, so from classes interface, import school interface. Now I can create a new, let's see what this says. I can create a new school interface instance and just execute the run method. Let's clear that and let's just see if this works. So Python runner. All right, cool. Looks like it's working. If I list the students, name school is not defined. Where does it say that? Oh, does anybody know what what this error says? User interface. So I'm just reading it. Runner line 7. So I coming into my runner. Oh crap! Looks like there's 2 things here. So that might be an error. So I'm just gonna save that, clear the screen or clear the terminal, run that again, list all the students. I get the same error. Well, a little bit different.
Are you forgetting self?
Self, yeah.
Yep. So let's let's read line 3. So I'm coming in the runner file, line 3. All right. And I'm coming down here, looking at this other traceback inside interface line 13 in run. So I'm coming here, line 13 inside the run method. Line right here, school.list, school is not defined. So it's looking at school, looking for a local variable called school. And it looks like I haven't defined a local variable because I don't want to look at a local variable. I want to use this instance variable. So anywhere I do list school, I want to add the self keyword before it because I want to reference the instance variable of the school. All right. So, all right, let's try that again. All right. Looks like it's still working. Oh, what just happened? 1, 2, 2, or 2, 3, 3, 5. All right, we got Jesse. Can add a student. I don't think I added a student yet. Yeah, whatever. All right, so if I want to list all the students, cool, I've got Tom, works. So I'm going to clear the terminal. Cool. So what I did is I imported the school interface class into our runner file by doing from classes from the interface file in the classes directory. I'm importing school interface. I'm passing in the school name. So I passed in the school name. It creates a new instance of the school on line 6. Assign that school instance to an instance variable called self.school. So the self.school is an instance of the school object. And then I execute the run method inside the school interface class, and then it comes into here and lists everything out. Gives me that little user interface there. What questions do you have about that logic?
Is it a bad practice to not assign it a school interface instance to a variable, or does it matter?
Only if you want to use that school interface variable, but yeah, you don't need to do that.
Okay.
Because this is just executing the interface in the terminal. So it's important to note that we've done is reorganize our code. The program should run just as before. We kind of just tested that. So now that we have our school interface class, let's see if we can, if there's anything else in our run method that we can be further broken down into its own method. Again, we want our code to be like single responsibility, just break down our code into smaller and smaller chunks if possible. So the first thing we can do, we do every time through our loop, is print out a menu. Let's start building that out. So we can actually build out a menu inside of our school interface class. So bring this down. All right. So in here, whoa. I can create another method called def, what is it, run or menu. Menu takes in self, and it just literally returns this. Return this. So now, instead of passing this in here, I can literally just run self.menu and invoke it. Because again, this is an instance method, so I need the keyword self dot whatever to execute it. Let's come up here. Let's see if this still works. I'm going to run that. List all students. Cool. Everything still works. Cool. So I'm breaking out down different portions of this code into their own methods. All right. So we kind of just did that. What other parts of the run can be broken out into their own methods? What did it say? Maybe the large chunk of code where we get data to add a new student. Cool. Let's see if we can do that as well. So this is a large piece of a large chunk of code. Let's see if we can break this out into its own method as well. Def, let's just say add student. Make that a instance method. And bring that down. Whoa. I think I got everything. I just want to make sure everything's still lined up. It'll still run, but I want all, there we go. So we can break that down. And now, so is that 3? So I got rid of all of this. And now I can run self dot add student. So when it comes down to 3, runs this instance method, add student, comes down here, creates a new object with role and student, and then takes input from the user in the terminal. So let's clear that and see if everything still works if we add a student. Python runner. So if I add a student, say Catherine, student A29, ID 789, enter student password, ABC. Let's see if that worked. So I can list all the students. So you have Catherine right here as well. So I remove that. I can probably remove this as well and all of that. But cool. What questions do you have so far about breaking down or breaking out these chunks of code into their own methods to make it more modular? All right. Goes over there. Now we want to do release 1 authentication. So right now anyone can run our program and access student records, which is a no-go. let's add a feature that checks if the user is present in our staff CSV file. Okay, so checks the user in a staff file and then uses their password to authenticate the user. What are steps we'll have to take to accomplish this? Some things to consider. What happens if the user enters an employee ID that doesn't exist? Does the program exit? Do we ask them again? Same with the password. Can we limit the number of attempts? How we implement this is up to you. Write pseudocode and break the process down into smaller steps. All right, let's go ahead and do that. So what do they call that method? Authenticate. Authenticate user. So we're going to do def authenticate user. This is a instance method. So what will we need to do? Let's write some pseudocode. So we wrote a method, authenticate user, employee ID that doesn't exist, use the program. Does the program exit? So what do we want? Same with the password. Can we limit the number of attempts? So I'm going to, so here are some like acceptance criteria for the authenticate user that I'm just going to create. So the user needs to enter their name. User needs to enter their password. Cool. Let's just limit the number of attempts to 3. If they don't get it in 3 attempts, the program exits. Those are just some specific acceptance criteria. So the first thing I need to do, I'm just going to write some pseudocode. So we need to limit the number of attempts. So we have to keep track of the number of attempts. So I can say like create variable user attempts with initial value of 0. And what do I want to happen? So if the user attempts is less than 3, I want to prompt the user for their username and password. So I can say
You could create another method for login method.
I can do that. But yeah, right now I want to get the basic logic down for the authenticate user. So you could have like login, but the login would also take in the username and password. So I could create like a login method, as you just said, to do that as well. But since the login method would only take in a username and password, it's like 2 lines of code. I'm just going to keep everything confined into the authenticate user for right now. All right. So create a variable user attempts with initial value of 0. And I could say like create while loop. So while loop, while user attempts is less than 3, I can do something else. So grab get user name. So user name from, or get username as an input. Cool. And assign to variable user name. I can also do the same thing with password. Password as an input and assign to variable name password. Okay. So I've got the username and password. Now what do I need to do? Well, I kind of have to understand how the program works. So if I come into school, it looks like I have access to all the student objects, or I'm sorry, all the staff objects in the school class. So I can loop through every single staff instance and see whether or not the user password, or yeah, the username, the user password equals the staff password. So I'm just going to open up the data, staff password. So I can loop through here, see if the username and the password equal one another. So I'm just going to add a username and password 123. Cool. And then if it does work, yeah, if it does work, what do I need to do? So I can say like loop through staff objects or staff instances if username equals the staff dot name, and so I'm actually literally just writing code now. Password equals staff dot password. Then what do I want to do? I want to return. So while true, I want to run through this. If it's false, I don't want them to have access to the list of students or anything. So I can just return true. And return true. Else, I can, so if I come through here and they don't get it right, I need to increment the user attempts by 1 because they already had it. Increment user attempts by 1. And then then I need to print out something to the screen. So I can like print a message to the user that their password wasn't, their username or password wasn't correct. Yeah. And then if it's looping, so that's within the while loop. And then once user attempts is 3, so once they attempt it 3 times, it'll break out of this while loop, and I can like so breaks out of while loop. Let's just show them where I'm at, and prints message saying they've reached the maximum attempts, and just return false. All right. Does anybody have any questions on the logic there? Nope. What questions do you have about that? All right. So let's go ahead and actually write it. So I can say user attempts equals 0 and create a while loop while user attempts is less than 3. Prompt the username equals input. I can say like, please enter your name. each line right there, and then password. I'll just say user password equals input. Please enter your password. And then loop through the staff instances for, let's look at this. So it comes into school. Just want to make sure I'm looking at it. So for staff, and if I do self.school, that's the school instance. If I do self.school.staff, I get a list of staff objects. So for staff and self.school.staff, so I can do, here's like literally just probably comment that out, but if username equals staff.name and user password equals staff.password, I can just return true. So if it doesn't equal here, so if they don't equal, I can increment user attempts by 1. Then I can print a message, your password or username did not match our records. Yeah, you have, so let's make this an F string because I want to say how many attempts they have left. You have 3 minus user attempts left. So if this increments by 1, user attempts is now 1, 3 minus 1. So they've got 2 attempts left. And this breaks out of the while loop. And I can print you've reached.
You're incrementing password instead of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, why are you incrementing password?
Thank you. That is an error. That would have, yeah, that is definitely an error. Thank you for telling me. So you've reached the maximum number of login attempts. You suck or something. So yeah, you've reached the maximum, and then I can just return false. So that looks, so user needs to enter their name, enter their password, 3. So user attempts is 0. All right. So now we can, that looks right. Hopefully it works. I'm going to bring that up here, and up here instead of, I can say like is auth. So is authenticated equals self dot authenticate user. So this will return true or false. And then I can say, hey, replace that with while user is authenticated, I can come into here. So let's actually see if this works. I'm going to bring over some staff just so I can see what they are. I'm going to clear it. Runner, please enter your name. So I can say Dewey. Cool, and enter my password. If I enter it wrong, your password or username did not match our records. You have 2 attempts left. Say Dewey, can do it wrong again. I can try something else. All right, cool, you've reached the maximum. Wait, why did that work? Hold on. Okay, just making sure. I thought something weird happened. What if I like, let's see if something that works. So I can say Tom, type in something wrong, type in Tom again, and then do 1, 2, 3. Now I'm entered. Cool. Can even opt if I didn't care about if things were case sensitive, I can do like do lower dot lower. So it didn't matter if I did uppercase or lowercase for the student name or the staff name. So I can do like Tom, all uppercase, 1, 2, 3, and it should still work. Cool. All right. Is there anything else we can do? That makes sense. All right. All right. What questions do you have about the authenticate user? Now I can get rid of all that, but yeah. Cool. All right. So now, I'm done with my feature. I tested it, looks good. Now I want to push up my code. I can say git add everything, git status. Whoa, I got all this stuff here, which I don't like. So what I'm going to do is create a Git Ignore file, touch.git ignore. I'm going to come over here.
What does Git Ignore do again?
So it ignores. So let's git status. So right now I'm going to be pushing up all these files, these PyCache files, which I don't want to push up to GitHub. So Git Ignore, I'm able to put files or directories that I want to ignore when I'm pushing up to GitHub. So it doesn't include those files up in GitHub. So I can do, is it classes? No, if I just do PyCache, will that work? So if I come down here, clear it and git reset, I can get add, git status. So see now it's ignored. So I'm adding the git ignore file, but it's not adding any of those other files anymore.
Got it.
So git status one more time, git commit, instructor solution, git push origin. Instead of git push origin master, I'm going to get push origin auth because I want to push to this branch. All right. Cool. It's going up there. Great. Now what I can do, look up here. There's my branch. I can compare and pull. I can either merge this into my master branch on Tompreet, or I can merge. So right here, I'm making a pull request to pull. So I'm in November Platoon direct or GitHub. I'm requesting to pull Tompreet school interface auth branch into the master branch of school interface. School interface 4 in the November Platoon. Or I can switch this and can go to, I can request to pull this to other people's like Tompreet school interface 4 if I wanted to, but let's just make a pull request into November Platoons. All right. There's no conflicts. That's good. So now there's that solution. Cool. What questions do y'all have?